Hello sewing friends. In this video I have a pattern piece here and I need to adjust it because it's a little bit tight on me. So I am pulling out my sloper. Only problem is on my sloper I have a 1-inch dart on here. And so what I'm going to do is, first things first, is I'm going to use, because I'm not trying to do all the math for the darts, I just want to figure out where my hips are on this pattern. And one thing I could do right here is I can lay my pattern on my dress form. And where is my pin? So this is the back piece. We'll do the front piece. So I've already marked it, but I wanted to show you how I did it. So I'm laying this on the waist. And then here is my high hip right here. High hip. And then here is my low hip there. And then I'll put this aside. Then I'm going to grab my back piece. And it should be the same. So I really don't have to grab my back piece. And so I just want to make sure that I properly mark them. High hip. And I forgot to put the notch on there. I'll put it right here. And low hip. So now I'm going to, I have marked my seam allowance and I am going to measure between these, between the seam allowances. I'm not going to count the dart. So I jump in the dart. Oh, please. So start here and go this way. Start here, stop at the dart, jump over the dart, go all the way to my seam allowance, and I got 8.5. 8.5 for the front. Start at the back, go here, jump my seam allowance, and I got 8 and I'm going to go with 8.25. 8.25. At the hips, I'm going with the low. I'm just going straight to the low hip. Mark my seam allowance. Oh, gotta put them even with each other. So this is 1. So I have 10 inches here. And let's see what we have on this piece here. I have 10 and 1/8. So we're just going to go with 10 inches here. So I have 8.5 here and 8.25 there. Let me get some paper. Okay. So 8.5 there and 8.25 over there. So this is times 2 because of the front, and this is times 2, right? So 8.5, so this is doubled because you're going to cut 2. So this is going to equal 17 inches for the front, and 8.25 is 16.5 inches for the back. So that's a total of 33.5 inches for the hip. That's what the pattern is. So now I'm going to look at, see what the pattern has here for 33 and a half for the waist. So it's putting me at a size 20, and I don't have a size 20. That's the problem. So we're not even going to look at that, but I do want to see what the finished garment size for a 14 is. 40. Oh, that's the, where's the waist? It's not giving me the waist, but it is giving me the hip. So it's telling me that for the hip, which we're going to put down here, the finished garment size for that is 41 inches. Okay, so my waist, I am going to have to add, I know my numbers, but I just have to be sure. Okay, so I'm down. My waist is 36. So that means 2.5 inches have to be added to the waist. And my hip is, let me go like this. So my hips are 44. So that means there's a 3 inches difference at the waist. So at that 2.5 inches at the top, 3 inches at the waist, but I'm going to add an inch to everything so I can do some fitting as I sew. So 3.5 inches for the waist, add 4 inches to the hips. Okay, so first 3.5 inches for the front, and I mean for the hips. So we have 3.5, and if I divide that by 4, oh please, 0.8 inches. I need to get my calculator. So I had to grab my calculations, and 0.8 is going to have us at 7/8 of an inch for the front, and for the back, 4 divided by 4 is 1 inch. Woohoo! Okay. So I have a piece of foam board here on the table. I don't know how many sheets I'm going to need. Let's grab 2 sheets of tissue paper. So I will tape these together. So I'm going to mark where I am right now. That's where I am, over here. And then I need to bring this out an inch. So I'm going to measure out an inch, which is a lot to be adding to a pattern, but that's what it is. So from here, I'm going to mark my seam allowance at the bottom here, because I'm going to pivot on this area here. So I'm marking the intersection of my seam allowance. So this is going to be my pivot point right here at the bottom. Woohoo! So now I'm going to take this out to an inch. And I'm going to redraw this seam line. And I'm going to redraw the actual waistline up here. I'm going to put my dart right here. I'm going to just subtly, because I can draw this in later, so I'm going to take this back to where it was. And now I am going to fold this back and get that out my way. And now I want to check my hip, my low hip, because I need an inch down there, and I think we probably have it. Boom, 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 boom. For not quite, not quite. So an inch. I think it should be okay, because I added extra, and I'll pin that out. So now what I do is I'm going to take I'm gonna pin my fabric down. I'm gonna pin my pattern down. I use small pieces of tape just because I know that I will mess up a long piece. Okay. Pin it down, all the way down. See, it's tape. I need cheap tape. All right. So now on the marking here, so this is going to come over, and I'm going to redraw this line. Then I'm going to go up, redraw that there, and then over here I have somewhat of a curve. I believe I do. There we go. Okay. And then this waist gets matched up with that. So now I can grab my scissors here and open this up. So I'm going to just try to carefully cut all this away. Pink, pink, pink. And then on the back, I like to tack this down because it can get caught. I'll try to use bigger pieces. Oh, see, that's what happens when I use big pieces. Small pieces work better for me. So now I can take this. So I have to remember that I added more than what I actually need, because on the muslin, it's a tight fit, and I don't want it to be a tight fit. I think it's meant to be somewhat fitting. I need to get a pin. Okay. There we go. Oh, and I forgot to do the bottom. And then I'll cut this off and tape that down. So I've added to my waist and my hip the needed amount. And the same thing happens with the back. So I will use this piece here. I like the right on the what is this called? The matte side of the tissue paper instead of, because there's like a shiny side and a matte side. Okay, so I'm going to cover up my previous marking. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, again, first I'm going to draw where I'm at, because this is where I have to come back to. There we go. That's enough there. And then at the bottom, I'm going to mark my seam allowance. Let me slide this up some. There we go. So I'm going to mark my seam allowance on the top and the bottom lines so I can find my pivot, the intersection. I'm going to put a pin in there. So now I have to mark 1 inch out. Because 7/8 is pretty much 1 inch. All right. And then we know for the hip, low hip, I also want to be out 1 inch. I think that'll work. So now I'm going to pivot out to that inch, and I'm going to redraw the, I'm drawing bad. Redraw the side seam. Put my notches. Sometime I'll just use this easier. And then I'm going to put some dash marks along the side seam so that I can draw that in later. So then I take this back to my point here. And I have a little jog there, so I'm gonna fold this back and tape it. So now I'm going to reconnect my new line with my old line right here. And then using the ruler, I'm going to redraw what's going on down here. The pin's almost dead over there. All right. Now I'm going to tape. Can't use that piece. Tape. This tape is strong. Turn it over and cut the back off. My hand. Okay, back side's taped. Now I'm going to recut my side. Get down to the bottom. I'm going to flip it over so that I can. So here we have the front pattern and the back pattern have both been increased. Now I'm going to make sure that my side seams match up. And there, it's a nice walk. If you have any discrepancies in this area, now's the time to clean those up. And I had this, so now I got to go in and actually fill in where I need tape. I'll see you in the next video, or you'll see me in the next video. Loves, happy sewing.